He bought his first motorcycle at 53, crashed it in 12 days. Hard. 2 broken ribs, a totaled tank, and a grin he couldn't wipe off his face. Everyone said it was reckless. He says it was the smartest thing he's ever done. If you're over 40 and still on 4 wheels, you might need to hear this. He went down at 37 miles an hour. Not a stunt, not a canyon run, just a parking lot exit with bad timing and worse throttle control. He'd barely learned how to shift. Still thought counter-steering was a conspiracy. But when that rear tire hit oil, the laws of physics politely introduced themselves. The bike slid. He flew. Denim met asphalt and lost, decisively. And for a few seconds, everything got real quiet. No job, no bills, no noise, just sky, pain, and the soft tick of a cooling engine next to him like a sleeping animal. People say crashes are the end. But for him, that low side felt like a wake-up call with a megaphone. You live 20 years thinking you're playing it safe, commuting, paying taxes, listening to dentists tell you about their golf swings, and in 3 seconds on a V-twin, you realize you've been half dead since 2009. That bike didn't throw him off. It threw off the fake confidence, the nice guy mask, the maybe next year routine. And as he laid there, ribs cracked, gear torn, dignity somewhere under a bush, he laughed. Not because it didn't hurt, it did. But because for the first time in years, the pain meant something. He didn't blame the motorcycle. He blamed the version of himself that waited this long to ride. And no, he's not saying crashing is a good thing. Broken bones suck. Asphalt's a terrible teacher. But sometimes one bad fall can fix a life stuck on pause. And yeah, next time, he took the safety course. You think crashing a motorcycle at 37 hurts? Try sitting in traffic for 20 years. That's slow-motion head trauma. People saw him go down and said, "See? That's why I'd never ride a bike." But let's be honest. Most guys don't need a motorcycle to crash. They do it every day, with a fork, with a beer, with a meeting that should have been an email. You want danger? Try waking up next to someone who hasn't looked you in the eyes since 2011. Try walking into an office where the only thing that changes is the printer's attitude. Try spending a lifetime asking, "Is this it?" and being too tired to care about the answer. But hey, at least you've got Bluetooth in your SUV, right? You've got your air fryer, your back pain, your weekend runs to Home Depot, and you call it adulthood. Most men aren't afraid of motorcycles. They're afraid of waking up. Because once you hear that engine under you, once you take a corner too hot and realize you're still breathing, you can't go back to pretending Costco is adventure. He didn't crash because he was reckless. He crashed because he remembered what momentum feels like. And guess what? He got up. You're still sitting there, still convincing yourself that this year's going to be different. That maybe when the kids move out, or the boss retires, or your back stops hurting, then you'll live a little. But spoiler alert, you won't. Because unless you break the script, unless you throw a leg over something that actually scares you, you'll just keep dying in slow motion. And that's the part nobody tells you. The crash didn't change him. What happened after did. He didn't just get back up, he came back different. See, the crash wasn't the end. It was a reset button. He rebuilt the bike, not to restore it, to understand it. First, he swapped the bent handlebars, then upgraded the levers. Steel-braided brake lines. Not because someone on Reddit said so, but because he now cared about how the damn thing responded when it mattered. That's what motorcycles do. They turn attention into instinct and hesitation into habit. He wasn't chasing speed, he was chasing clarity. Because when you're leaned over at 50 in a corner you misjudged, the bike doesn't care about your excuses. It cares about input, about feel, about whether you're connected to the moment or still living in your inbox. Most men suppress rage. He put his into throttle control. Most men suppress fear. He translated his into traction. And no, it wasn't some Ducati with 200 horsepower and a single-sided swing arm. It was an old SV 650, 2 cylinders, honest torque, and zero ego. And that's the thing. You don't need the perfect bike. You need a bike that puts your brain back in your body, that demands attention, rewards finesse, punishes arrogance, and when it finally clicks, you realize you weren't looking for adrenaline. You were looking for presence. Because that's the secret no one tells you. Motorcycles don't make men reckless. They remind men they were built for more than just enduring. That's what changed him. Not the crash, not the pain, but finally riding like his life depended on it, because now it actually did. He packed light, couple tools, a second pair of gloves, and a map he didn't plan to follow. Day 3 of riding, and the highway started to whisper things no therapist ever could. The wind doesn't coddle you, the road doesn't give compliments. You ride 200 miles and either your soul gets louder or quieter. And somewhere in the Appalachians, halfway through a thunderstorm, he pulled over under a gas station awning and met a guy on a beat-up Goldwing. 62 years old, 300,000 miles on that bike. Didn't have much to say, just nodded at the rain and said, "Looks like a good day to ride." That was it. But those words hit harder than any motivational podcast you've ever streamed. Because the moment you ride far enough, long enough, you start to meet the version of yourself that doesn't need approval. The one that doesn't check mirrors to see who's watching. That's when the ride stops being a trip and starts being a return. Not to a place, to a person you were supposed to become. Somewhere in Tennessee, the chain snapped. Middle of nowhere. No cell service, no gas station. Just bugs, heat, and silence so thick you could punch through it. He had 2 options. Sit and wait, or start walking. But here's the thing. When you break down on a motorcycle, you're not just stranded mechanically. You're stripped existentially. No AC, no Spotify, no safety net. Just you, a busted chain, and the echo of every choice you've made since 1998. He pushed the bike for 3 miles, sweating, bleeding, pissed, and grinning like a lunatic. Why? Because for the first time in years, no one was coming to save him. And that's what most men today never experience. Raw self-reliance. No call a guy. No honey. Can you pick me up? Just your hands, your legs, your will. The next day he fixed the chain with a borrowed wrench, wrapped in duct tape and dumb luck. And as the engine coughed back to life, so did something inside him. You think breakdowns suck? Try never finding out what you're made of. That's the real tragedy. Let's get clinical. Riding a motorcycle hits your brain harder than skydiving. Dopamine, spikes, norepinephrine, fires up like a Roman candle, cognitive response, sharper than a damn scalpel. Japanese neuroscientists ran actual MRI scans on riders. They found that regular riding increases prefrontal cortex activity. Translation? It makes your brain younger. You're not just dodging potholes. You're literally forging new neural pathways. Stress levels? Cut in half. Situational awareness? Through the roof. You get tunnel vision, but in a good way. The world zooms in. Everything gets quieter, more focused, more real. It's like your soul goes from 480p to 4K. No wonder ex-soldiers, CEOs, and burnout dads all end up on 2 wheels. It's not a hobby. It's neurochemical warfare. And for once, you're winning. Everyone thought the crash was the headline. 2 broken ribs? Viral footage? Nah, that wasn't the shock. The real shock came 6 months later, when he didn't come back. Not to the job, not to the house, not to the life that made him numb in the first place. He sold the SUV, shut down the LinkedIn, gave the suits to Goodwill, and bought a used DR 650 with 20,000 miles and a dent in the tank. And then, he vanished. No GPS, no Instagram reels, just a man, a tent, and a thumper that shook his bones awake. He crossed 4 states in 3 weeks, camped behind gas stations, ate tuna out of the can, and said he felt more human in those nights by the fire than in 20 years of corporate espresso. The crash didn't break him. It broke the illusion. And that scared people. Because when a man your age stops pretending and starts living, it reminds everyone else how asleep they are. And that's what really shocked them. Here's what nobody tells you about motorcycles. They don't just move your body, they rewire your brain. No, literally. After just 30 minutes on a bike, your brain's dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol levels shift like you just meditated for an hour or had sex. That's not a metaphor. That's UCLA neuroscience. Riding changes your prefrontal cortex activity. It sharpens focus, boosts memory. You walk into a gas station after 80 miles of curves, and your IQ just went up 10 points. And we call it a hobby? This isn't a midlife crisis. This is evolution clawing its way out of your boring desk job. That's why guys like him don't come back. Not because they're reckless, but because once your brain feels that alive, a fluorescent office feels like a coffin. You don't need therapy. You need throttle. And here's the kicker. Studies show experienced riders have higher cognitive function than non-riders their age. You want to stay young? Forget Botox. Learn to lean into a corner without flinching. That's what shocked everyone. Not the crash, not the trip, but the clarity. He didn't go crazy. He woke up. It wasn't a Ducati. It wasn't some carbon fiber superbike with a race pedigree. It was a Suzuki DR 650. A single-cylinder thumper with no electronics, no traction control, hell, not even ABS. Kickstart optional, comfort questionable. But here's the thing. This wasn't a bike for Instagram. It was a bike for the truth. You don't ride a DR 650 to impress people. You ride it to remember what real feels like. Every downshift shakes your spine. Every bump punches your kidneys. But every ride rewrites your story. Most guys over 50 shop for cruisers like they shop for lawn furniture. Wide, safe, comfy. He bought a dirt-ready mutant with a gas tank like a brick and suspension like a drunk pogo stick. Why? Because when life's been numbing you for 2 decades, you don't need comfort. You need a jolt. That bike didn't pamper him. It dared him. It told him, if you want to feel young again, you better earn it. And that's what changed everything. Not the speed, not the freedom, but the honesty. The DR 650 doesn't lie to you. If you mess up, it bites. But if you hold the line, it teaches you what you're made of. Now he rides 5 days a week. Rain? He calls that free grit. Cold? That's just proof you're alive. He sold the SUV, takes meetings in a motorcycle jacket, stopped apologizing for wanting more. But here's the part that shocks people the most. He's not chasing youth. He's not trying to relive the past. He's finally living like he means it. He says the crash didn't scare him. It reset him. The DR 650 didn't just carry him. It unburied him. That's what motorcycles do. Not just the fast ones. Not just the loud ones. The honest ones. They strip you down to what matters. Balance, breath, focus, forward. And if you're not willing to drop your old armor, you'll never feel how sharp life can actually be. The truth? Every man hits a wall. Some crash through it. Some sit and build IKEA shelves against it. Some stare at it until they forget they were ever moving. But every once in a while, someone throws a leg over 400 pounds of bad decisions, clicks into first gear, and does something terrifyingly smart. He bought a bike, he broke some bones, and he broke the cycle. Question is, will you?